Yeah.
What do you think of that? Another connection there.
The Eads.
Eads and
Yeah.
Temple.
That ties them into the Hathaways.
What was Evelyn Eber's maiden name?
Pardon?
What was Evelyn Eber's maiden name? Was that Temple? Who was it? It was a Scottish name, wasn't it?
It had a brother named Eldorado.
That's all right. It'll come to us.
Yeah.
Was anybody here working on the church over the week? Were you, Mike?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, you did? I was going to say, somebody started the vacuuming and cleaning up.
I did.
We have work to do yet, but I got the bathrooms.
I vacuumed up here in front. It really wasn't too bad. But...
I ran the vacuum before the cool people.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I could tell somebody had been cleaning
Yeah.
up. I thought maybe Paula got it.
We need to do
No, I was.
Okay.
I ran it.
I got that sign.
Okay. All right, we're in good shape then. Welcome to First Universalist of New Madison on an officially spring day. I don't think we're going to need the heat after this anymore. It's
Hopefully
warm
not.
near me. I'm about ready to open the doors. And naturally, we go from 0 2 weeks ago to 80 degrees today or tomorrow. And
Today's going to get about 80.
about 80, and then it's supposed to
Then 50.
storm come through tomorrow.
Then 50.
So we'll see. But that's the whole nature of spring. So no complaints there. All right. For announcements, next week is our union service with Eldorado. We'll be setting the church up today, setting the tables up, so there shouldn't be much to do. And I think everybody's signed up for everything on the bring-in list. Derek sent emails, which I thought was interesting. If we weren't going to have food provided, they were going to arrange to go out someplace to dinner. And I replied, like, where would that be? Fort Jefferson's not open anymore. Do they have a big room up there at the snack shop up there where we could get 10 people to sit around the table?
Yeah, they got that on Sunday. They got that much.
Oh yeah, they're closed on Sunday. So I wasn't not particularly fond of like driving clear to Richmond or someplace far away. So I was just curious to what they were talking about. But anyway, we're going to eat here, so that's been our habit. Everybody's invited, whether you come to church or not. Church is at 10. Food will be at like 11:15 or 11:30. There's always plenty. So if anybody who can't make it to church wants to come for some community talk and some good food, you're welcome to attend. Okay, the prelude might as well be spring. All right. This week, because of the news and what's going on, and just out of general curiosity, we're going to be talking about Judaism. The Jewish religion is way too big to cover, and you could do a whole semester on this if you were in college. So anyway, Judaism is the first Abrahamic faith. That's the first, we got a wasp. The first faith that followed the monotheistic or one God. And of that, there are three now, because as everybody knows, religions split and then resplit and then re-split. So you've got the Muslim religion on the left there, and Christianity in the center, and Judaism is the star on the right. One of the things when you get into that is there is a split in Judaism, or there's a division of Judaism called Zionism, which is the drive to found a country for Jews, their own country that they have as a homeland. That has caused innumerable problems, and that's kind of where we ended up today with the problems between Israel and Palestine, so we're going to talk about that a little bit too. All right, the chalice lighting, the Jewish tenor to it, the Purim call to worship. For millennia, people have gathered together to hear stories, to root for the underdog, to jeer the evil and the unkind. We see in our stories mirrors to our own lives, where we hope good things will happen to good people and that evil will be vanquished. This morning we gather for story, for cheering and jeering, for hope and for justice. May this ancient story shed new light on our own lives, and may we know ourselves connected to millions of listeners who have come before us and millions of listeners who will come after. Let us worship together. These are words by Sharon Wiley. And even though it sounds Jewish, she is a Universalist, Unitarian Universalist. All right, opening hymn is 120. You can tell it's spring, the weather's warming up, and the insects are coming out of hibernation.
Yeah.
after age our tragic empires rise. Built while we dream, and in that dreaming weep. Would we but wake from our haunted sleep. Earth might be fair, and people glad and wise. If only. All right, our affirmation. Now we're starting out with our first slide. This is something we're going to talk about. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I stand with Israel equals I stand with genocide. That is a popular, not with the government and not with the Jewish lobby, but a popular sentiment even with many Jews in the United States and even in Israel. What is happening in Palestine is considered by the United Nations to be a genocide. And that is the people who want Israel to expand, which we've talked about before. Even the government of Israel showed a map that included parts of Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, basically triple the size of Israel, supposedly to the size of ancient Israel. And that can be argued by scholars and historians because the Middle East was quite fluid. Things rose, fell, shrank, grew, got divided. And we talked a little bit about what happened after World War I when the Western powers, France and Britain, just divided up the Middle East arbitrarily. Two guys sat in a room and drew lines separating, like the Kurds are separated into 3 different countries. Kurdistan, Kurds should have all been in one country. All the Shiites should have been in one country. Each group, if you'd have put them all together, they would have been self-governing and been able to work with their neighbors. Instead, they divided them all into pieces, which set them fighting each other, which is a natural human condition, kind of like Republicans and Democrats. Okay, an affirmation, a prayer for the world. For all who die in war, we lift up our hearts. For all who live in suffering in the aftermath of violence, we lift up our hearts. For all who give their lives in smoke and flame, we lift up our hearts. For all who go on in the honor of the dead, we lift up our hearts. For all who have served, we lift up our hearts. For our country and our world, we lift up our hearts. For a planet that will find peace, we lift up our hearts. For the young and the innocent, we lift up our hearts. For the weary and war-torn, we lift up our hearts. For those who would pray, we lift up our hearts. For those too angry to cry, we lift up our hearts. For all of us, for the many names of God, we lift up our hearts. We lift up our hearts. Shante, Shalom, Peace, Al-Islam, Amen. Words by Amy Petrie Shaw. And here's a collection of Judaica, is what they call it. The menorah, the Torah on the rolls on the scroll. Some of these I don't even know what they are, and I didn't have time this weekend. This was quite the weekend. My phone crashed, and I went to T-Mobile and got another phone, and he said it's going to take an hour to transfer your information from one phone to the other, so you can just go someplace. You know what happens when you go someplace and you don't have a phone? You can't talk to anybody. People can't message you. You can't do your map thing to find out anything. You can't see what your grocery list was. So I just kind of wandered around for an hour, come back, and he said, oh, it's not done yet. Keep your new phone and your old phone together, and it will finish transferring. So I took it home and sat beside it for hours, and it just kept the little hourglass just kept going. So I had a meeting to go to last night in Hamilton. I had to call them and say, I can't go because I don't have a phone. Number one, I can't find it when I get there because I don't have my maps. If I get lost, I can't call you to ask you where it is because I don't have a phone. I can't text anybody. I can't do anything. So I just sat there and watched that stupid thing go around. And finally, I said, all right, I'm done. And of course, I can't go back to T-Mobile. They're closed on Sunday, and they were closed last night. So I just stopped the whole thing, stopped over, and tried to figure out, and eventually by consulting the computer, figured out how to start the process again. There's a little thing on your phone that's called Smart Change or Smart something, and you start it on both phones, and one phone says send and the other phone says receive. And I did it over again, and finally, like at midnight, it finished. But my new phone doesn't edit videos. So like I told you before, I video something on the computer screen for the children's story, and then I shrink it down so it fits, and then I email it to myself, and then I download it into the PowerPoint. Well, this new phone won't do that, so I don't have a children's story today until I get that figured out. So it's just one fun thing after another. I guess we might as well continue on that. Anybody know about the Farm Forum that was yesterday in Versailles? I should have brought pictures today, but I didn't have time to do it. The Farm Forum is run by Warren Davidson, which we all know who Warren Davidson is. And I went in, and I always like to sit in front so I can see what's going on. So I sit down at a table, and guess who my companions were?
Rodney Creech.
What?
Rodney Creech.
Rodney Creech, his wife, his mom, and his dad. And Rodney doesn't know. Basically, I signed up in Preble County to run against Rodney Creech, so I'm a write-in candidate on the ballot to run for the state representative for District 40. But Rodney doesn't know that, and I didn't tell him that. The other person right to my right was the mayor of Greenville, the Whitakers, Mr. Mayor Whitaker and his wife. So we had a very interesting conversation. His wife is a really nice lady, and I think pretty well fits into my concept of the Republican mode. She asked me, because I told her, and I kind of joked with him when I said, yeah, you'll see me, Mayor. I'll be across the street with a sign the 28th on No Kings Day. And she said, what does No Kings, what does that mean? So I had to explain from 1776 when we revolted against King George. And I tried to politely say we don't want another king taking chunks out of the White House, erecting monuments without public, and starting wars without public or congressional approval, and basically taking money out of the public coffers and giving it to his kids. I said, that's pretty much somebody I tried to be polite about it and said, that's somebody acting like a king, and so we are having a No Kings protest. So she politely smiled and said, okay. I don't think she still understood what I was talking about. And then we proceeded to talk about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket. When she was in school, she went to church, and it's a church or Girl Scouts or something. You were not allowed, I know, she started working at McDonald's when she was in high school. Men were not allowed to have facial hair. You weren't allowed to have tattoos. You had to be clean, short haircut. You had to have a certain amount of clothes. And everything, the world was much better when people were told and behaved how they were supposed to. Pretty much I had to just bite my tongue and not say anything. So, but I'll bring you some pictures next week or sometime of our gathering. And the other thing was all the Republican guiding lights for this area were there. There was mentions of almost everything, but it was all, everything is fine. There's a few little glitches, but there's no real problems. The farmers are having some problems, but tariffs are going to help us. Okay. One farmer was there, one of the representatives is a farmer, and made a joke that he bought a lot of diesel fuel and fertilizer for this year. He's going to sell his diesel fuel and fertilizer because he can make more money selling the inputs than he can by planting crops. And that was supposed to be a joke. So. And actually, sadly, that's true. The price of diesel fuel.
That's actually true. The
price of nitrogen was $100 a ton more 3 weeks ago, and it's another $100 a ton now. I don't know what they're going to do. And there was no answer. This was a crowd at the Versailles lunchroom thing. The room was packed, and there was you could ask questions, but you had to write your questions down for the discussion at the end. And then they gathered up the papers and then threw those away and gave the panel the questions that they wanted them to answer. So everything was stacked. There were some protesters there with signs. Last year when I went, I didn't even see the protesters because the sheriff's department moved them around behind the high school where nobody could see them. They got smart this year and they stayed on the public street out in front where nobody could do anything. There were 4 sheriff's deputies and 2 Versailles police there. I've got pictures of them, and they kind of stand all around the hall, making sure that nobody could get in. There was a sign on the door that any kind of protest is not allowed. No signs, no standing, no talking. Basically, you sat and listened and behaved yourself. Very good information. It was good to hear all these people speak. And the main reason to go is the Versailles FFA served the breakfast. So you got a made-to-order omelet with all the trimmings, eggs supplied by Weavers, and you got sausage, fresh pork sausage, which I assume was a local supplier for there, and then yogurt from Dannon and all the other trimmings. So it was worth it for the breakfast, if nothing else. And actually, it was worth it to talk to my table mates and get some information from them. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So that was my exciting week. Because when I left there, my phone died, so that I was pretty much screwed. Do we have any from the peanut gallery? Any requests or any notes? All right, for our absent friends, I haven't heard anything from anybody who's not coming. Hopefully everybody is doing well. If they want to, actually Phil checks in every once in a while. Phil's watching online, so appreciate that. I haven't heard from anybody else, so if anybody needs anything, let us know. The state of the world, we should probably light a whole fleet of candles. They are bombing the Jesus out of Iran. Israel is, and the United States is, and all they can do is threaten them. If you don't let the oil tankers through, we're going to bomb you even more. Last I heard, they bombed 8,000 sites in Iran. They're running out of places to bomb, and yet the Iranians are still able to launch missiles. And the Iranians are now threatening to launch missiles at secure places. They actually launched a missile at the United States naval base in the middle of the Arabian Sea, which is like 1,000 kilometers away. That's longer than anybody thought they had a missile to even reach. I think it was intercepted and shot down before it got there, but the fact that they can launch one was a pretty scary understanding. The Israelis are bombing the Iranian nuclear sites, which were obliterated 6 months ago. If they happen to crack one of those open and spread radiation, nuclear material all over, we're going to be in a world of hurt. The Iranians are still keeping the Straits of Hormuz closed, which means the price of gas is already up 90 cents or $1, and it's going to go higher. In California, it's over $5 now. The prediction is if they keep that closed and no oil gets through, it's going to go to $6, which you can imagine. It's not just gas in our tank, it's the trucks. If you can imagine trying to fill up a 150-gallon semi-truck with $6 and $7 and $8 diesel fuel, things are going to get really, really sticky. And the response from the government is, we're going to bomb you even more. If you don't let those ships through, we're going to bomb more. So the threat of, kind of reminds me of the abusive parents that you see on TV, where, you mind me or I'm going to beat your butt, and if you do something wrong, I'm going to beat it even harder, and that's their only answer, is physical force and threats, and we know how that actually works with people. So we'll see what happens there. So anyway, it's not good. Lots of Iranians have been killed. The Iranians are now launching missiles into Israel, and a couple of those have landed and killed some Israelis. Actually, they targeted the Israeli nuclear plant, which would be a tremendous problem if that actually came to fruition. It's a very scary time to be in the world, and I'm not sure what powers we have to do anything about it. We will be at the circle for the No Kings protest. That's the one thing we can start to do anyway. All right. Any other disasters that we need to comment on? There's been flooding all over. It's global warming. Out west, it is like 110 degrees in Palm City, Palmdale, Palm whatever, and Arizona and Phoenix. Temperatures they usually don't reach till July or August are already here. The snowpack was limited in the wintertime in the Sierras, and it's melting quicker, so there won't be the water supply. Because how they supply water for the whole western United States is it snows feet up in the mountains, and then it gradually melts through the summer. And that the water that runs into the Colorado River and the other supply rivers, that's where they get their water. If it didn't snow very much and it melts early, then that's their water supply is going to be basically fragmented and reduced by a large fraction. So, and then here, we had freezing weather and snow, unbelievable snow for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and yet tomorrow or today it's going to be 80 degrees in Ohio in the middle or the end of March. That's also unheard of. So the weather is changing around us, and yet the powers that be, that was one of the things they talked about yesterday, how great coal was and how we need coal, and how terrible solar was and how terrible wind turbines were. Coal is more expensive than solar, and putting a solar panel on a field does not take a field out of production, because you can run sheep or cattle or any kind of grazing animal in the field, and you can take the solar things down and farm the field. It doesn't destroy the soil. Whereas when you build a factory on it or a data center, they talked about data centers. There's a problem with data centers. Yeah, the problem is they use huge amounts of electricity and we pay for it. They use huge amounts of water and we supply the water, and then they don't treat it when they send it back out. So, but their thing was data centers are something we have to have, and it's a boon to the economy to have data centers here. So everything was Pollyanna. There are some minor problems, but nothing that we can't handle. No programs on how to handle it. Just kind of skating along and saying how everything is somebody else's fault. Immigration, talking about the farmers. We need to get immigration under control. The people that do all the work on the farms are immigrants, and many of them are illegal immigrants. But many of the people being exported or being sent out of the country are legal immigrants. They don't seem to discriminate. There's all kinds of reports of people being sent to foreign countries who have legal right to be in the United States, and separating children. Okay, and then my renters, they're having trouble already. You know, Fram is closing, so we'll light a candle for the employees, 300 and some employees. I asked the mayor at the table, what's the city's response going to be to Fram closing? Well, we're trying to figure out some way to get a consortium to buy Fram, but because it was a criminal thing and nobody knows actually how much Fram is worth, because they've looted all the money out of the resources. In other words, the building, the machinery, the business, everything that there has a value, and that's what happens in bankruptcy. You figure out the value, somebody comes in and says, I'll buy it, we'll use all this material for collateral at the bank, and then we'll start production and start over again. Evidently, we can't do that because nobody knows if there's any value left, if they've already borrowed all the money out of the value of the building and the machinery. So it looks like it's just going to close and sit there and be dead while the lawyers fight it out in court, which means these 300 people, of which 2 of my renters are employees there.
It'll take a couple of years.
Take a couple of years at minimum. So 2 of my employees are out of a job and looking for jobs.
And then when they come back, they've got no contracts for anything. Just
pensions.
Open market.
Yep. So things are looking difficult. My other renter, who's disabled, I told you that he refused to go for sales to the home. So I told him, if you don't find something in another month, I'm just going to have to evict you. I can't just let it go like that. The other employee that I had that borrowed one of my cars wrecked it. So it's just, come see me if you want to hear a long tale of interesting activities going on. All right, one last candle for all those problems that nobody can realize, maybe they're not even aware of. And if you have a problem that we can help with, please let us know. If you just want to share your problems, we're getting pretty good at that, so come see us about that. All right, we don't have a children's story. Basically, my talking here is kind of going to be the children's story. And then we're going to start in on, this is a composite picture with Bibi Netanyahu and the 2 founders whose names I can't pronounce of Zionism. This was founded, Zionism was founded or begun in the early 1930s. A little bit earlier than that, in the 20s, was the idea for a Jewish homeland. But as Hitler started moving in Germany, the idea grew in strength. And these two gentlemen had an agreement with the Germans to take Jews out of Germany and send them to Palestine with the German government's permission. The trick was they had to surrender all of their physical wealth. In other words, their buildings, their property, their diamonds, everything they owned, they had to give to the German government for permission to leave. But they were given in trade, they were given materials on the ship to Palestine. They were giving food, clothes, furniture, the things they needed to start a new life. So it wasn't totally an expulsion. It was a trade. It was an unfair trade, but they still were escaping with their lives. And the Zionists were all in support of that. There was no complaint about the German government or anything else. It was that furthered their goals of starting a nation for Jews in Israel or in Palestine. There was no Israel at that time. So that was where the children's story was supposed to be. This is kind of what's happening in Israel now. We talk about apartheid. On the left-hand side, that is a road in the Palestinian area, the area that the Palestinians live. On the right-hand side, this is what the roads look like on the Israeli side. It is a complete, when they talk about apartheid and the separation, you can go back if you saw pictures or heard stories about what it was like in South Africa. The same thing is happening in Israel. And the next one this is the Wailing Wall. I'm sure everybody is familiar with the Wailing Wall. It has kind of a longer history too, some of which is pretty interesting, but one of the more important things that I found, if you can see, left my pointer. The Wailing Wall is underneath the dome up there, is the long wall along there. And what do you see in front of the Wailing Wall? There is what they call the Moroccan village. In 1930s and 40s, it was filled with 3- and 4- 5-story apartment buildings, sales stalls where food and material was sold. It was basically a neighborhood, a complete neighborhood. This is what happened when the Jews took over Jerusalem. The entire Moroccan, and that's when you see the Wailing Wall now. It's an open area in a big plaza that used to all be filled with the dwellings and businesses of the Palestinians who lived there. Those were all demolished and flattened out. So what's happening in Gaza now, what's happening in Lebanon now, is not new. It is a plan that has been in place since the founding of Israel, which, let me go into our other thing here. Looking at any social dilemma, how do you decide who to trust? Who do you believe? Especially when both sides are questionable. You need the wisdom of Solomon. So we'll refer to 1 Kings, chapter 3, verse 25. You're familiar with that, I'm sure. You may not know the lineage, but you know the words. Cut the baby in half. That way each of you can have part of him. Please don't kill my son, the baby's mother screamed. Your Majesty, I love him very much, but give him to her, just don't kill him. You know the story of Solomon's wisdom and the two babies. The two women, allegedly prostitutes, both were pregnant at the same time, both gave birth at the same time. In those days, and even some today, babies slept with their mothers. One of the mothers rolled over in the night and smothered her baby, and it died. So she got up, she took the baby from the other mother and put her dead baby in its place. And then the next morning, when the other mother woke up and saw the dead baby, she cried and thought her baby was dead. But then she looked at the baby and said, "That's not my baby, that's your baby." And the other woman said, "No, that's your baby. My baby is with me alive." So, as was the wont in ancient times, and maybe even today, they went to the authority to decide what was the right thing to do. King Solomon said, he asked each one of them, both of them swore it was their baby. King Solomon said, "Bring me a sword." If you both claim the baby, we will divide it in half and give each of you half. The real mother said, I love my baby. I would rather see it alive with someone else than kill it. The other mother said, yes, divide that baby in half. It's only fair. King Solomon said, well, now we know who the real mother is, so give the baby to the mother who loves the baby. The question is, what would have happened if the other woman had said, no, don't kill the baby? The Bible does not talk about that, and the commentary doesn't talk about that. But this is what if you're dealing with renters who won't pay, or the husband and wife who have an argument about who wrecked the car, every one of these people that I talk to, I am honest, I never lie, I would never cheat you. As soon as somebody says that, you can pretty much bet they're going to cheat you and they're going to lie to you. Because the people who protest the most are the ones who are the least likely to follow through. The question is, and just as Solomon, what do you do if both of them are smart enough to answer the right answer, if both of them stick to the story? My only answer is, actions speak louder than words. You have to judge people. You have to judge the Israelis, the Zionists, the Palestinians on what they do, not what they say, but what they do. There is good and bad in both sections. There are good Jews and bad Jews. There are good Palestinians and bad Palestinians. And maybe good and bad is not the right division, because nothing is black and white. Everything is shades of gray. All right, so you have the Palestinians and you have the Israelis, two sides implacably opposed to each other's existence, or so it seems. Each has seemingly strong rational reasons why the other is considered villainous. The Jews as innocents looking for a lost homeland in the face of implacable hatred from the surrounding Arabs, and the Palestinians forced from their homes by a Jewish invasion and harassed and hounded over the years with what seems to be a long-held plan to appropriate their homes and farms. An overview, we can try viewing this through this lens. A possible reason is the support for the Jewish homeland has never suffered in the United States. Judaism since its inception, part of that is due to the Jewish lobby, which is extremely strong and donates huge amounts of money to multiple people. And you can hear multiple senators and Congress people say, I support Israel and would never vote against anything. Israel gets billions of dollars, I mean literally billions of dollars in aid from the United States every year. Not just $1 billion or $2 billion, it gets $3 billion, $3.7 billion in military aid every year, plus more financial aid on the side. Israel has free education for all of its residents. It has free health care for all of its residents. A lot of that is supplied by money from the United States. We are being told we can't afford health care. Medicaid is being cut. Food stamps is being cut. We can't afford this. But billions of dollars is going to Israel, and billions of dollars, literally billions. They've asked for another $20 billion for the military to fight Iran. Iran, a country that has a few little rockets and no real army, they don't have tanks, they don't have anything that's going to invade anybody. They don't have ballistic missiles that are going to reach the United States. All right, we have the mythical, this is what I found interesting, the mythical narrative of two settler colonial peoples who both believe that they have a divine mandate to settle a so-called empty or savage land and make it into kind of a heaven on earth. Does this click? Are you ringing any bells here? Of people that come to a new land, feeling this land is given to them by God, and whoever the people are that are living there, the Native Americans, they can be displaced, dispossessed, and pushed off because even though they've lived there for generations, they don't really deserve the land. God has given it to us. So ethnic cleansing, even genocide, are all divinely justified. Israel is to be a light unto the nations. What would become the United States? A kind of heaven on earth as we settled in this land and moved across the land, displaced the Native Americans one after another, after another, after another. Both people internalized the same white supremacy hierarchy, which has been used against them. This is the most interesting thing. The new Jew was blonde, blue-eyed, healthy, and muscular, versus the shtetl Jew, which is the village Jew of Poland, Russia, and Germany. He was a small, dark, hunched-over religious and embarrassment. If you remember the propaganda, the German propaganda against the Jews, it was always a big nose, a hunched-over old man with evil eyes and clawed fingers. That was the stereotype of the Jew for those years. And what the Zionists brought up, and you've seen that if you've seen these shows that boost the group settlements in Israel, they are the blonde, blue-eyed, strong, broad-shouldered, strapping young men and women, and even young women are part of the program. So I want to recognize there is a sensitivity about raising the issue of prejudice against Jews, but it has nothing to do with Jews specifically and everything to do with human beings. Virtually every colonized or oppressed group internalized this in some way their oppressors. As Frantz Fanon wrote about so eloquently, women can be the agents of the patriarchy. We have seen women stand up and speak for Donald Trump with all the things he has done against women. Blacks can internalize white supremacy. We've seen so many black people advance into a position of power by supporting the Republican cause and saying that black women or black people are sucking off of the public support and don't deserve it, the welfare Cadillac queens. LGBT people can internalize transphobia and homophobia. We've all seen the gay people who stand by the Republicans and talk about gays as being a curse and a blight on America until it's revealed that they are gay. And sometimes they even say that they're gay and acknowledge being gay and still are anti-gay, which is something that's what this person is talking about, internalizing. When you can take something that is your own group and turn against that group in public. This shouldn't be a controversial observation. It is just fact about what it means to be a human. Belief in ourselves is to be somehow specially chosen by God. We talked about the Wailing Wall and the Moroccan demolition. Judaism is one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, characterized by a belief in one God and a rich tapestry of cultural, spiritual, and legal traditions. It traces its origin back nearly 4,000 years and is considered the original Abrahamic faith, which is established between God and the patriarch Abraham, who is regarded as the founding father of the Jewish people. The narrative of Judaism is primarily documented in the Hebrew Bible, particularly the Torah, or for us, the Old Testament, which contains the laws and teachings that guide Jewish life. Monotheism. Judaism is strictly monotheistic, emphasizing the belief in a single, transcendent God who is the creator and sustainer of the universe. This was a complete departure from the standard of religion at the time. Almost every pagan religion, there's a couple, Zoroastrianism and a couple earlier religions that weren't, but they were not well known. But all the pagan religions had multiple gods, multiple deities, multiple things that you prayed to or gave offerings to, and they were considered kind of interchangeable. When the emperor of Rome came in and said, we want you to worship Zeus or whatever god they picked out, people just picked that up and started with it because they could worship two different gods at the same time. You could worship your own local pagan god, and you could worship the god that the emperor told you to worship without a problem, as long as you donated money to both of them. The Jews and monotheism, that was completely not allowed. God will kill you if you try to worship some other god. And that was made pretty clear with the Jews. He has revealed himself to key figures such as Abraham and Moses and the prophets, in sharp contrast to most pagan religions where a multitude of gods mirrored the human family, father, mother, children, friends, lovers, betrayers, a reflected image of the daily reality of the worshiper, who is free to choose which and when and who to follow and who to appease. The pagan gods mirrored the human family, which would have been natural as religion developed. A father, a mother, children of Zeus and Hera, and these children get into problems and have spats and fights and kill each other. just like human families. So there was an identification between the pagan people or the people who believed in the pagan religions. Monotheism was not like that. God, Jehovah, did not have a wife. His only begotten Son was begotten through a human, through a woman, a living woman, which we can go into the complications of that. The covenant. The central to Jewish belief is the concept of a covenant, a special agreement between God and the Jewish people, which includes following the commandments outlined in the Torah. The sacred text, the Torah, comprising the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, is the most important text in Judaism. It's supplemented by the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the oral Torah, which includes the Talmud and other rabbinic writings that interpret and expand. And the Jews are famous for their intelligence and their ability to parse or divide sentences, ideas, thoughts. The Hasidic Jews, the fundamentalist Jews, they spend their entire life doing nothing but studying the Torah and arguing with each other. There are communities in eastern New York where the entire community is made up of fundamentalist Jews, and we've talked about that a little bit. They have families anywhere from 10 to 17 kids. They're all on welfare because they qualify for food stamps and everything else. None of the men work. They all go to the seminary, the rabbinical seminary, and study the Torah. You've seen stories about these, and they take over these towns, become the school board, become the town council. It's kind of an interesting situation, and it's a little bit hard not to become a little prejudiced as you watch it go along. So Judaism encompasses a wide range of practices and rituals, including the observation of the mitzvah. Jews are expected to follow the commandments, which include ethical guidelines, dietary laws, observance of the Sabbath, and Jewish holidays. And I told you about the fundamentalist Jews, or the conservative Jews in Israel, where it says, remember I quoted to you last week, if your enemy has a child that will grow up and be your enemy and kill you, you have every right to kill that child now before it grows up. This is a common understanding in Israel. I kind of was questioning it, but the more I look, and the problem is with Facebook or any other source of information, on Facebook or any other algorithm, once you put something in and watch it, then you're inundated by it. So I have tons of settlers abusing, let's see if I had a couple of movies of that, but I can't get them on. The settlers abusing the Palestinians, bulldozing their olive trees, killing their livestock, killing their sheep. We've talked about this before, burning their cars, burning their houses. Now they are starting to kill the Palestinians. They're being shot and stabbed. There's one video of a Palestinian family in a car driving back. The Israeli police stopped them, shot at the car, and then pushed the car over a cliff. And the mother and the father and both kids were killed. They have video of the car going over the cliff, but you can't tell when there's actually people in it. So you have to be careful to see whether some of this is propaganda or whether it is actually true. But the volume of information that comes by, and the pictures of the destroyed houses, the pictures of the slaughtered animals, and the pictures actually of the interview with the Jewish people, the one woman in particular I showed you before, saying the Palestinian children don't deserve to live because they will grow up to be adult Palestinians who want to kill us. That is the mindset. And the question is, what's the percentage of people in Israel who believe that? Hopefully it is not as many. But we see in this country what 30 or 40% of the population can do to a country when they take power. It is a pretty scary operation. Okay, we run out of time. We've got more stuff, nothing that you really need to hear. A lot of it is the separation of Zionism and what the Israeli population is. Not all Israeli Jews, not all American Jews are happy with Zionism. So. Okay, comments, questions? You want to hear more on Judaism, or you want to go on to the next one? Yes.
That's fine.
That's fine. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. We may look into, as I was talking about, I was thinking, I know Zoroastrianism, there's a couple other religions that were monotheistic in the old days. So we may look at, see what happened to those and where they went. Okay, our offering. If you have something that you could share, please do. And if anybody who is not attending church wants to share a little, we are always open to accepting that. And we're going to hear Love and Marriage. Closing hymn is 63, Spring Has Now Unwrapped the Flowers, and I did remember to bring the daffodils today. day is fast reviving. Life in all her growing powers, for the light is striving. Good verse. All right. Extinguishing the chalice. It is our journey together. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry and thirsty, doubting that we should ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land. Words by Deborah Hafner. And I don't think she knew at the time, but I think she was referring to the 28th gathering at the Circle in Greenville at noon. Bring a sign. If you don't have a sign, we'll have one for you. We'll see if we can have a nice gathering there, peaceful, and we'll wave at the mayor through the window. All right. Postlude, Till There Was You. Till There Was You. All right, we'll leave our last candle lit for all those absent friends and family. Hopefully things are progressing well, better in their personal individual worlds than in the general widespread. And we'll leave that candle lit for them too. This is police horses in Israel. Police horses are used all around the world. Israelis, I found, have their own breed of, it's called the Israeli horse, but it is kind of an amalgam of many different breeds. The primary, they started out with the Arabian, which was native to that area, and they're crossbreeding them with thoroughbreds, which is why they're getting more size. The Arabian is nowhere near that big. So they're crossing them with standard breds, and you see these horses are prepared for battle. They have the face shield on, and something I've never seen before, they have a big rod that runs all the way down the front to protect the horse's nose. The nose of a horse is one of the most sensitive areas, and if you hit them in the nose or do something to their nose, they are not going to react well. They're going to be flighty. So they have, and that's the only place I've seen them do that, and possibly because maybe in Israel and Palestine is the only place where people actually attack the horses. You don't usually see that in the United States. People shy away from horses here. So, all right, that's our service. We'll get ready for our gathered group next Sunday. Hope to see everybody here. Donuts and coffee once again.
Those look like the horses that were bred for knights, don't they?
Yes, they look big, don't they? They look a lot bigger than an Arabian. And I'm not even sure a standard bred is that big. They look huge. So, but they said it's not like a recognized AKC, whatever breed, but they just
Percheron or something like that.
Yeah, it's like there's definitely draft horse crossed in there, but they don't have the draft horse feet.
Yeah,
They have the size of a draft horse, but a draft horse is bulkier and has a lot bigger feet. And some of the American police use draft horses because they're big and stocky, and they also really good temperament, most of them. So just interesting stuff you can run across on Facebook.
Back to the motors and the hills and the flood walls. The trees, motors and everything. But I think I was confusing. I was talking about the deep. Hey.
All those,
That's right, they did next. I remember, didn't they get right as back over citizenry houses